The room buzzed with clinking plates and hurried footsteps. It was a night like any other in this small-town restaurant, where the regulars gossiped over cheap wine and waitstaff rehearsed fake smiles. But as the door swung open, the air shifted. A delivery woman stepped inside, her presence drawing fleeting glances that quickly turned into stifled chuckles and exchanged smirks. She was ordinary, faded uniform, weary eyes, just another face in the crowd, or so they thought. She wasn't there for dinner, nor for the camaraderie did the others enjoy. She moved purposefully, her package tucked under one arm, unnoticed except for the judgment etched on the faces around her. Dismissive eyes followed her every step, their mockery whispered in tones meant to humiliate without confrontation. What none of them could know, not the giggling hostess by the register, nor the sous chef shouting over the hum of kitchen fans, was that this woman, ignored and underestimated, would set into motion a series of events that would unravel their lives in ways they couldn't imagine. This wasn't just a delivery, it was the beginning of an unforgiving reckoning, and by the time the night was over, this restaurant would never be the same. Make sure to watch till the end. Let know where you're watching from in the comment section, and make sure to engage kindly, like, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification button for more interesting stories. The restaurant wasn't always a bustling hub. Just months earlier, it had been on the brink of closure, a failing business plagued by lackluster management and disillusioned staff. That's when the CEO, Zara, stepped in. Known for her sharp instincts and unconventional leadership style, she had saved businesses before, and now she had her sights set on this floundering eatery. But just as the gears began to turn, she left. A business trip abroad, she said, a chance to explore partnerships, she claimed. The truth was far more personal. She had been watching her team, meticulously crafting a plan to uncover what couldn't be seen from a boardroom. Zara needed to know if the people she trusted to rebuild her vision truly deserved the responsibility. She couldn't rely on performance reports or staged meetings. She needed the raw truth. Flashback to Zara, seated at her dining table, late at night. Papers spread across the surface, the warm glow of a desk lamp casting shadows. A trusted friend sits across from her, eyebrows raised in skepticism. "You're really going through with this?" the friend asks, folding their arms. "I have to," Zara replies firmly, her pen tapping against a worn notebook. "Numbers won't show me what matters most. Respect, integrity, how they treat people when they think no one is watching." Her confidant leans back, frowning. "And if you don't like what you see?" Zara pauses, her expression unflinching. "Then they'll have no place in this company." The idea, born in that quiet room, grew into a bold decision. She would disguise herself as a delivery worker, someone they'd likely overlook, and step directly into the heart of her restaurant. She wouldn't announce her presence, wouldn't tip her hand. Instead, she would observe, unnoticed, like a shadow slipping between the cracks of their daily routines. The next scene shows Zara in a crowded supply store, picking out a faded uniform and a beat-up cap. She moves through the aisles with purpose, her hands brushing over items she never imagined she'd need for this kind of work. The transformation was simple but deliberate. "You'll either catch them at their best," her friend had warned, "or at their worst." Zara had nodded, resolute. "Either way, I'll know the truth." Zara wasn't your typical CEO. From the ground up, she had carved her path in an industry that often dismissed people who looked like her. A black woman in the cutthroat world of hospitality, she had faced barriers others couldn't fathom. From condescending boardroom stares to whispers questioning her qualifications, she had seen it all. But Zara wasn't one to bow to expectations. Her vision wasn't just about creating a profitable restaurant. It was about building a space where people felt valued, respected, and included. Those principles weren't just corporate slogans for her. They were personal. She had lived the consequences of being underestimated, overlooked, and dismissed. And now, she was determined to ensure that no one under her leadership experienced the same. The screen flashes to old photos of Zara, a younger version of her standing outside a tiny diner she had once managed, her smile bright, but her eyes shadowed with exhaustion. Another image shows her shaking hands with city officials, a plaque in her other hand commemorating her first major restaurant opening. Each snapshot tells a story of resilience, of pushing through systemic barriers and proving wrong those who doubted her capabilities. In her private office, Zara had a framed quote on the wall, one she looked at every morning. "If you don't build your own table, they'll never give you a seat." It was a mantra she lived by, and it fueled every decision she made. But success had come with sacrifices. Late nights, relentless criticism, and the constant pressure to be twice as good just to earn half the recognition. There were moments she questioned if it was all worth it. Moments she thought of walking away. "There's a difference between running a restaurant and creating a legacy," she says. "A legacy isn't about profit margins. It's about the lives you touch, the respect you give, and the example you set." That belief drove her to rebuild the restaurant, to bring in new staff, and to give them opportunities to grow. But as much as she wanted to trust her team, she had learned the hard way that trust couldn't be given blindly. Zara's journey wasn't just about building a business. It was about creating a world that reflected her values, a world she fought for every day. But even with all her accomplishments, she knew this. Values were meaningless if the people around her didn't uphold them when she wasn't looking. As Zara stepped through the door, she blended effortlessly into the backdrop of the restaurant. Her plain uniform, worn cap, and nondescript delivery box were just enough to shield her true identity. She moved with quiet purpose, her eyes scanning the room, already noting the subtle interactions between the staff, the way they looked at her, the dismissive chuckles, the eye rolls as she made her way through the busy dining room. She had anticipated it, of course. In this line of work, people saw only what they expected to see, and she would use that to her advantage. The first glance came from the hostess, who didn't even look up from her phone as she gestured toward the back. A brief moment of eye contact, a flicker of disdain. The delivery woman was just another inconvenience to get past. She was nothing more than a tool in the chain of service. And it showed. As Zara walked further into the heart of the restaurant, the staff's reactions became harder to ignore. The laughter echoed against the hum of kitchen activity, cutting through the air like knives. Two waiters exchanged whispers, their eyes darting over her appearance. One chuckled. "Probably a subpar delivery service," he muttered, loud enough for Zara to hear. Another snickered. "What's she doing here? Shouldn't she be cleaning the kitchen or something?" A slight, almost imperceptible tightening of Zara's jaw was all that betrayed her, but she pressed on, determined to stay focused. Her eyes fell on the manager, Sarah, a young woman with an air of authority that Zara knew too well. She had been placed in charge of a team that had been struggling to find its rhythm after the recent shake-up. Yet, from what Zara had seen so far, Sarah's leadership style seemed more rooted in arrogance than in building rapport with her team. Zara approached Sarah's station near the kitchen door, watching as Sarah raised an eyebrow at her. "Can I help you?" Sarah asked, voice flat, eyes barely glancing up from her clipboard. Zara gave a practiced smile, the kind of smile she'd worn during so many tough negotiations. "I'm here to drop off the delivery," she said, maintaining a calm demeanor despite the dismissive air hanging around her. Sarah gave a dismissive nod, her eyes never fully meeting Zara's. "Put it on the counter," she said, waving a hand as if the package were no more than an afterthought. But the words, her tone, stung more than Zara had anticipated. She had expected the mockery, but not from someone in charge, someone who should have been a leader. As Zara set the package down, her eyes locked with Sarah's for the briefest moment. "How do you think your boss would feel about the way you're treating someone like me?" Zara asked, her voice steady but carrying a quiet weight. For a moment, Sarah hesitated, her lips curling into an almost dismissive smile. Then she laughed, short and dismissive. "Boss? You mean the woman who's never here?" She scoffed, her eyes flickering with a hint of sarcasm. "Please, get real. She doesn't care about stuff like that. She probably wouldn't even notice." The words hung in the air, thick with a certain arrogance. Zara's pulse quickened, her hand curling around the edge of the package, but she didn't let her reaction show. And just like that, Zara's presence was dismissed, not with the care of a leader, but as an inconvenience. In the eyes of those who saw her as nothing more than a delivery woman, she was invisible. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that Zara's patience had its limits. She had seen the cracks, the disregard, and the lack of respect long before she stepped through that door. And now, with the weight of her decision pressing down on her, she would wait. She would watch, and she would see who was truly worthy of the future she had worked so hard to build. As Zara watched Sarah's dismissive attitude, her thoughts momentarily drifted back to the countless conversations she had with mentors, colleagues, and even friends over the years. Conversations that were often laced with frustration and quiet anger about the subtle and not-so-subtle biases that had haunted her career from the very beginning. Zara had worked hard to build this business, but she knew all too well that the odds had never been in her favor. Her race, her gender, these were factors that colored every interaction, even when she wasn't aware of them. She had heard it all, words dressed up in a smile, compliments laced with doubt. It wasn't just Zara. For years, people of color in customer-facing industries had been subjected to unconscious bias, hidden prejudices that affected everything from hiring practices to everyday treatment. A 2020 study revealed that 25% of black employees in customer service roles reported being treated with less respect than their colleagues, despite identical qualifications. In fact, black workers were more likely to face microaggressions, be passed over for promotions, or, like Zara had witnessed firsthand, be dismissed outright based on their appearance. And it wasn't just about race. It was about the intersection of power, privilege, and respect, or the lack thereof. The restaurant industry in particular had long struggled with inclusivity, often treating employees as mere cogs in the machine, overlooked and undervalued unless they fit a certain mold. Zara wasn't the first, and she wouldn't be the last, to face these challenges. But she would be the one to confront them. This wasn't just about Sarah. It wasn't about a few offhand comments or the subtle undercurrent of disrespect she'd endured today. This was a statement, a larger conversation about what it meant to create a culture of inclusion and fairness. A culture where respect wasn't earned by how well you fit in, but by the value you brought to the table, no matter who you were. And Zara knew that this test, this unexpected and quiet confrontation, would reveal the true heart of her business. Would it reflect the values she had fought for, or would it betray everything she had built? The following day, the staff gathered in the dining area, a mandatory meeting called by Sarah, the manager. The air was thick with curiosity and mild irritation. Interruptions to routine rarely sat well with the team. They joked quietly among themselves, some still glancing at Sarah, who stood at the head of the room with her usual confident posture. Then Zara walked in. Gone was the plain uniform, the worn cap, the unassuming delivery box. She was dressed sharply, her presence commanding without effort. A quiet murmur swept through the staff as recognition dawned on a few faces. For others, confusion lingered until she spoke. "Good morning," she began, her voice calm but carrying a weight that silenced the room. "Some of you may recognize me. For those who don't, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Zara, and I am the CEO of this company." The ripple of shock was instant and undeniable. A waiter who had whispered mocking comments the day before froze, his face paling. Sarah's confident stance faltered, her clipboard lowering slightly as her lips parted in stunned silence. Zara paused, letting the gravity of her words settle before continuing. "Yesterday, I came here as someone different, someone you didn't recognize, someone you didn't respect. I wanted to see this team, this environment, not through the polished lens of a corporate visit, but through the eyes of someone who walks in unnoticed. And what I saw, what I experienced, was profoundly disappointing." Her gaze moved deliberately across the room, catching the eyes of each staff member. No one spoke. No one dared to. "Respect," she said, her voice firm but even. "It's one of the core values of this business. It's the foundation we've built everything on. But yesterday, I saw a team that judged, mocked, and dismissed a person based on nothing more than appearance and assumptions. Do you think that's the kind of culture that builds success? Do you think that's the kind of team that grows and thrives together? The room was silent, except for the faint hum of the air conditioning. Sarah shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting to the floor. "This is more than just about me," Zara continued. "It's about what we stand for as a company. If this is how you treat someone you think is beneath you, then how are you treating the customers? How are you treating each other? This isn't just about one day or one mistake. It's about the habits and attitudes we allow to take root, and I won't stand for it." She let her words hang, her gaze piercing. Slowly, the weight of guilt began to seep into the room. A dishwasher near the back shifted uneasily. One of the waiters swallowed hard, his face flushed with embarrassment. Sarah finally spoke, her voice small and hesitant. I didn't realize it was you," she stammered. "If I had known—" "If you had known," Zara interrupted, her voice sharp but not unkind. "It shouldn't matter who it was. That's the point." The weight of her disappointment was palpable. She glanced at the team one last time before stepping back, her expression firm but resolute. "I built this business to be different, inclusive, respectful. If that's not what you believe in, then this isn't the place for you. Starting today, we're going to have a serious conversation about what it means to be part of this team. And for some of you, that might mean making changes, big ones." As Zara turned to leave, the staff remained rooted in place, their silence a reflection of the gravity of what had just happened. Some looked to Sarah, hoping for guidance, but even she seemed lost in the aftermath of the revelation. In that moment, Zara had done more than reveal her identity. She had held up a mirror to the team, forcing them to confront their own actions and biases. It was a turning point, one that would shape not just the future of the restaurant, but the character of those within it. The revelation didn't just shock the team, it sent ripples of introspection through the restaurant. In the days that followed, the staff found themselves navigating a mix of emotions: shame, regret, and, for some, a determination to change. Conversations that had long been avoided began to surface, sparked by Zara's unflinching confrontation. A waiter sits in the break room, speaking to a colleague in a low voice. "I didn't think about how my words came across," he admits, rubbing his hands together nervously. "I just didn't think. But now, I don't know how to make it right." Sarah, the manager, addressing the team during a staff meeting. "We've got to do better," she says, her voice shaking slightly. "I was wrong, so wrong, and I'm sorry. I let my position get to my head, and it blinded me to how I was treating people. But that changes now. Starting today, I'm committed to being the kind of leader this team deserves, the kind of leader Zara trusted me to be." Recognizing that words alone wouldn't be enough, Zara introduced sweeping changes to the restaurant's operations. Diversity and inclusivity training became mandatory, with workshops designed to challenge biases and promote empathy. Workplace policies were strengthened, focusing on accountability and respect. For Zara, this was not just a response to her experience, but a step toward creating the kind of workplace she had always envisioned. Zara, addressing the team in a training session. "I don't expect perfection," she tells them, her tone firm but understanding. "But I do expect effort, real, genuine effort. Respect isn't something you perform, it's something you practice every day, in every interaction." A waiter helps a new staff member navigate the kitchen, offering patient guidance. The dishwasher, who had previously been ignored, shares a laugh with a line cook during a shared task. Sarah takes a moment to listen intently as a server expresses concerns, nodding thoughtfully and offering solutions. Among the staff, allies emerged, those whose kindness and respect had shone through even before the revelation. Zara took time to personally acknowledge their efforts, reinforcing the culture she wanted to foster. Zara approaches a young server who had offered her a warm smile and courteous words during her visit as a delivery worker. "I noticed how you treated me when you didn't know who I was," she says, her tone soft but sincere. That kind of attitude is what this place needs more of. Thank you for being a part of the solution. The server nods, a mixture of pride and humility on their face. The changes didn't happen overnight, but they were unmistakable. The staff began to see one another not just as colleagues, but as individuals deserving of respect and dignity. The restaurant, once just a workplace, was slowly transforming into a community. Respect costs nothing but can mean everything. Every interaction, no matter how fleeting, has the power to uplift or to diminish. Consider this. How would you react if someone you judge today turned out to hold your future in their hands tomorrow? The story of this restaurant is a reminder, a challenge to each of us. Fairness and inclusivity aren't just lofty ideals. They are choices we make every day in how we speak, how we listen, and how we treat the people around us. Biases, unchecked, can build walls. But respect builds bridges. Challenge yourself to look beyond the surface, reflect on your actions, and make a change. Let's take this story beyond. Reflect on how you approach others. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to engage kindly, like, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification button for more interesting stories. Respect is a choice. Make it yours. Thank you for watching.